Okay, the first thing I want to talk about with this movie is the thing I liked the most, which is the art. In terms of 3D modeling and just design for the environment, I really liked it. It wasn't too out there, but it was well done. Problems only start to show up when the characters try to move too much. The usual nitpicks like water physics and how it affects hair and the clothes of characters are reserved for companies like Disney, where you definitely have the money to do better. So I'm not saying animation, but in terms of art, I think they did a good job. Because the art was one of the things that pulled me into this movie in the first place. It looks cohesive and for the most part appealing. Okay, now onto the movie itself. Major warning, I am going to go into serious spoilers for this movie. Just letting you know. If you're interested in the movie, I'd say you should watch it first. This movie's marketing pushes it as Moana meets Frozen, or in some places Moana meets Brave. I think I saw one that said Frozen meets Brave. And I'll give the movie some credit. It takes the sidelining of a more interesting plotline from Brave and a smidge of the sisterly bond from Frozen, but the rest of its recipe is straight from Moana. I mean, if you've seen Moana, then you've seen this movie. Just not the other way around. But I'm not going to fault the movie for that. Moana was a good movie. What? But I'm not going to fault the movie for that. Moana was a good film. Ah,
But I'm not going to fault the movie for that. Moana was a good.
okay. But I'm not going to fault the movie for that. Moana was a good movie, and I think it's the best choice to use as a base for the kind of story they wanted to tell. Okay, now how well the movie tells that story is up to debate because, in my opinion, I think they really missed the bar. The movie ends up being very boring, mostly because the creators seem to be very distracted. To be honest, I don't think I've ever seen a movie so distracted by its own ideas. You can tell the creators want to do something interesting, and they keep trying to spice things up, but they just don't commit to any of the new ideas they introduce. So it becomes like this bowl of soup with too many ingredients, but at the same time not enough of any ingredient to give it an identity. So you know the soup you ordered from the menu, but the soup you get is basically chicken broth with a few lentils and a single shrimp. It looks like dishwater. The movie creates a lot of interesting scenarios, but the payoff is either severely lacking or non-existent. I'll give you an example. The movie's main character, Ainbo, has a generic background, but her best friend, Zumi, is in a pretty interesting position. Zumi is 13 years old, same age as Ainbo, and her father is the village chief, but he's sick from the curse that's affecting their land. Now, at the beginning of the movie, he hands Sumi his position, making her the head of the village. At 13 years old, Sumi has now been put in charge of the entire village in the middle of a crisis. In my opinion, that sounds like a movie on its own. But Sumi's position doesn't really affect anything in the plot. She may as well have remained the daughter of the village chief. If you remove Zumi's coronation from the movie, not much really changes aside from some dialogue. And speaking of, let's talk about this movie's dialogue for a bit because it also makes no sense. The voice acting isn't very good, so it makes the conversations feel janky. And the lines are delivered in such an odd way that it feels more like the characters are mocking the script, especially Ainbo, who never seems to know the situation she's in.
The mighty huntress.
We're on your side.
No, you're not. You're a couple of mirages.
I'm leaving now.
Then get me down. I brought you a gift. 2 of our sacred jungle spirits appeared to me. Not just better, the best gift ever!
She keeps the same tone in pretty much every situation. And the worst part is, she's not the only one. The flow of dialogue in general is just so strange. No character seems to be able to keep a straight line of thought, and the topic changes every 4 lines. Okay, for some context here, Ainbo's spirit guides promised to show themselves at Zumi's festival, but they were chased by an evil spirit and couldn't make it.
You embarrassed me in front of the entire village.
Oh, see, now we can explain that.
Then do it.
Nope, we can't.
It might be bad for our health.
I thought you two were immortal, almighty.
Us? No one's immortal when it comes to Yakuruna.
Jungle demon?
And that's it. They don't even properly explain what happened to them. They just mention the jungle demon, and the topic completely changes. All this still comes back to the movie's biggest problem: distractions. This movie can't seem to stay focused on anything, and because of that, nothing is allowed to matter. none of the setup you see now is going to have any meaningful payoff. And some of their payoffs are so baffling you can only understand it with moon logic. We get to a part of this movie where Motelo Mama, the world turtle, sends Ainbo to meet this giant sloth at the top of a volcanic mountain. She goes there to get moon rocks, which the giant sloth carves into this blue magical dagger and gives to her. Now, you see this dagger and you're thinking, okay, something's gonna happen. This is like the very first set in her group of magical weapons she's going to have. Let me just skip ahead a bit and give you the payoff for this dagger. You can skip this part if you would like to experience that payoff yourself. Okay. She would use this dagger to stab this giant tree, which turns out to have the spirit of her mother, who is going to come back to life and imbue this magical arrow that her spirit guides randomly gave her earlier in the movie with magic power that Ainbo is going to use to shoot at the great evil, even though Ainbo is a terrible shot, and somehow save the day. You see why I'm having problems with this? Almost none of that lines up. And the magical arrow is somehow worse than the dagger. Because you see, the magical arrow was given to her while she was practicing archery with reeds. Because she lost her arrows when she was running away from Atok, the second antagonist of this movie. And now, this is what Ainbo's archery has been like up until this point. Yeah, she's bad. We can see she's bad, and I'm pretty sure the movie knows she's bad. So you'd think at this point they'd start to teach her something. And yes, the movie confirms that at least one of them is a master archer. So this is the perfect setup for them to make her the great archer she wants to be. But no, they never actually teach her how to use the bow and arrow. She asks the armadillo to teach her, and his response is,
You don't have to be a spirit to do that. You just need to believe in yourself.
the movie has ideas, but it always loses track of which idea it's supposed to be following and just deviates to a new one. The movie has stakes, but when the characters get into trouble, rather than using the skills the heroes have to solve the situation, the movie just invents a new solution. This problem really shows with Ainbo herself. We see her determination to follow her mother's footsteps and become the greatest hunter in the Amazon, but the movie never lets her grow or figure things out for herself. She's supposed to be this destined child who will break the curse, but all she does is fail upwards. They never give us a clear view of what her strengths are, because every problem she encounters is either solved by her spirit guides or something else. This causes a number of issues with her character that leaves her unable to grow. One good example of this would be her bow. The movie keeps handing her this bow and arrow time and time again, even going as far as to basically have it teleport next to her if she loses it. And she does, many times. I think there should have been a point to this. Because her mother was a great hunter doesn't mean she has to be one as well. If the movie had given her other talents or maybe shown she was smart or skilled in some other way, this would work. The problem here is that the movie is pushing for the story where Ainbo becomes a great hunter. But she never does. By the end of the movie, she is still a terrible shot. And I am not counting the magic shot at the end, that was more magic than skill. If they wanted to stick to her becoming a great hunter of her own, but also keep the bad at archery business, then they should have let her learn a different weapon. Maybe spear throwing is her thing. Or take the better route of making her intelligent. That way you could set up her flaws as a hunter at the beginning and let her find new ways to use them to her advantage by the end. There are different types of soldiers, and there can be different types of hunters as well. Ainbo can be great like her mom, but just forcing her to fit into the same mold is not helping. The movie could be about her trying to find her own way to achieve greatness. And I know the movie wants to go with the underdog trope, but I think it goes too far and makes Ainbo look incompetent. Another issue I have is this movie's plot. It becomes very convoluted in the last 20 minutes. Because it tries to focus on way too many things, the main plot feels bloated and stretched out. This movie could work, but have more faith in your concepts. If you think you have an interesting idea, you don't need 30 more to bolster the movie. Take the idea you have and see how much mileage it gives you. Try to explore every angle of that idea, and you might find yourself with some pretty unique takes that can give your movie a clear identity. And that is all I have for this film. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and also check out my other works if any of that interests you. Bye.